General Flynn has written a beautiful letter to President Trump that I believe encapsulates what a lot of us voters are wanting. We're going to talk about voting fraud and the financial fraud up in Somalia that's now spreading to Ohio and Washington State and Maine and others. To help me go through all that, I have Jovan Pulitzer. Jovan, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, sir, for having me here as we're all doing snowstorms and trying to stay warm.
Well, do stay warm. We need you in the fight. I want to jump into this first story. General Michael Flynn, who went through hell on Trump's behalf, he has now penned a letter to President Trump, letting him know what he believes the vast majority of voters want out of a year two, Trump term two. Let me just show that on the screen, and I'm going to read it to you in the audience because I think it's just really well written. So it says, breaking, we the people demand accountability. Dear Mr. POTUS, I know you are listening to We the People. This message is sent on behalf of a very frustrated 79 million Americans who voted for you and millions more who refuse to be ignored. Therefore, we are designating 2026 as the year of accountability. Why now? Because the country is at a breaking point. Our freedoms are being chipped away in plain sight. Our government has grown bloated, arrogant, and unaccountable. Public trust has not merely declined, it's been obliterated. Power has been stripped from the citizens and hoarded by bureaucrats, agencies, and unelected elites. Those who call themselves leaders protect each other while the American people pay the price. Civic duty has vanished from classrooms, replaced by obedience and ideology. The family, once the backbone of this nation, has been systematically weakened and devalued. Enough is enough. At its core, this is not partisan. All Americans are demanding accountability. We, the people, reject the lies, the gaslighting, the censorship, and the deliberate erosion of our lived reality over the past decades. We remember what was done. We know who did it. We are no longer willing to move on without consequence. The message is unmistakable and unstoppable. Americans demand accountability. So, Mr. POTUS, the question for you to answer is simple. Will you stand with we the people, or will you protect the system that failed us? Make 2026 the year of accountability. We will stand with you through thick and thin like we always have, but you must respect our wishes. If you don't, our founders warned the deep state concentration of power in government will lead to greater corruption and eventual tyranny, and your legacy and history will be tarnished beyond repair. Respectfully, one of the 79 million voters. What are your thoughts on that? That is well penned, in my opinion.
I can give you much more insight to it simply because I dialogue with General Flynn so often, basically daily, watching messages go back and forth, and we're all kind of talking about what needs to happen or whatever. I watched his sentiment, and he's a very measured fellow, very carefully thought out fellow. But I watched this building over the last many months. I watched him getting to the point, getting frustrated, and basically, as a leader, as a general, have to put his foot down and call it out. And so that's exactly what General Flynn did, was call this out in an open manner, in a very clear way, which is the same kind of communication he has with President Trump. But this was a dual message. It was for the people, and it was for President Trump, but expressing a sentiment that we need some results. The bottom line is all of our eyes are open, right? It's open. But the issue is not as much as the news story or the various squirrels they let us chase in the news in any given day. The story has become a very focused one. We know this goes on. We know we're getting robbed. We know the system is broke. We know all of these machinations are against us. Now the story is squarely on the shoulders of the administration. That's the only story that matters right now. What are you going to do? Now, what's really interesting is this goes right back to President Trump's first administration, where he was in a White House. Out of all the people in the White House, he probably only had 4, 5 people that really had his back. He now has more people, and he's much wiser. But the people that have come in this second term are some pretty powerful people. And I think a lot of people in there play for the system. They don't play for the man. And so he's in a very deep battle at the moment, trying to navigate it the best he can to get to the end where he needs it to get. And sometimes, and what people don't see is the give and take that goes on to get ultimately to the end. And this is where we have to measure our cadence and measure our style that we want it now. And we don't see all the movements being played. But I can tell you, I hear from the public, just like you hear from the public, people are frustrated because it is now so blatantly obvious. And now with so many elected officials not taking steps to act in a positive way to get things done, they're beginning to question, and I hate to say it, but what is President Trump got swallowed up by the system? Is there not enough drive to get it done? And it's putting really incredible pressure on the White House. And so I think General Flynn was 100% correct in calling that out, because he's got his finger on the pulse of the nation. And I think all of us want answers, but what we want more than answers is we want action. We know this is happening. We don't have to guess. We don't have to know who the bad players are, and not one single player. An arrest is not going to make a difference. Yes, there should be arrest and there should be accountability. We need system change. And that's what America needs from President Trump. And I think that's what General Flynn was calling out. Come on, sir, let's go. We need system change, and we can't wait much longer, because we're in trouble when it comes to the midterms.
Yeah, he was voted in to be a change agent. And then when people don't see that change, they start wondering, okay, am I living in 1984 where I can see the gas prices are down, but I'm not seeing arrests. I can see interest rates are down, but my groceries are high. Like at some point, people go, okay, I want the things I voted for to be the focus. And, you know, I know in the first part, there was a lot of international stuff that had to be dealt with. And now their commitment is we're going to focus here at home more. But one of the complaints of Trump term 1 was by the end of his 4 years, he was so insulated that he wasn't really getting much of the news. He didn't have that pulse on the COVID, on the vaccines, on everything. And so I do worry about that. But I think General Flynn very respectfully said, sir, this is what the people are looking for.
That's right.
Yeah. And I thought it was so beautifully written. I wanted to share that. But I appreciate
it's a great measure of men. I can remember back when we're trying to fight stuff in Michigan, and I found out that the Michigan GOP was the problem, and you could actually pay for an endorsement, and they would make it seem like it came from President Trump, right? They would just pick somebody who wasn't worthy, and they would call him the MAGA candidate. Well, I heard behind the scenes that for the Michigan GOP, that if you pay the fee, you'll get it. And of course, that upset me. First person I picked up the phone, I said, General Flynn, look, I've stumbled across this. I've got the numbers. I've got the who and the wow. Could this possibly happening? Could people actually be buying an endorsement that President Trump knows about? And he says, hang on, I'll get right back with you. It wasn't even 15 minutes. He called back and he says, you do what's right. You expose it for what it is, because you never have to apologize for telling the truth. It ended up being a Michigan GOP rhino thing. That's how they were playing the game to enrich themselves. So I can tell you on the character side for General Flynn, he errs on the side of character and the people and doing what's right. In a world, I got to tell you now, it's harder even now for me after all this time to really know who to trust and who you can bank on. And it gets harder every day.
Yeah. I think Trump is pretty aware of the rhinos. My worry is he aware of the minos, the MAGA in name only, and they don't really, they're just kind of waiting him out. So I bring you on all the time to talk about election fraud because you were in the thick of it around multiple states. but heavily in Arizona. You saw the fraud with your own eyes. You're still holding all of that evidence. Well, now a lot is coming out. For some reason, all the focus is on Georgia. Maybe it was that major fake Fannie Willis lawsuit where she and her boyfriend basically came out on top, and the other 19 people just had financial hardship because of it. But a lot more is coming out in Georgia. And I saw a video I want to play for you in the audience and then get your take on it. But this video is basically how they were using duplicates hidden in different batches in order to vote multiple times. Let me show that to you in the audience, and then we'll discuss it.
So you'll see that this poster, we have 4 posters to show you today. This poster has an image of a ballot on the left, which is the original ballot. The ballot on the right is a fake duplicate copy. You can see all the way down to the right end. Now, these are hand-marked ballots, so you can see the right end. You can see the detail that this is a fake duplicate. The original ballot on the left is from batch 11. This is all Ware County 2020. Everything we're showing you today is from the 2020 election. So the original ballot is from batch 11. The fake copy is from batch 35. What we did is we analyzed the scan times in the Dominion machine data. And these are open records, electronic records. And this is what we discovered. And now you're going to see why they destroyed most of the records from 2020. So what we found is that batch 11, which has 100 ballots in it, was scanned first on November 3, on election day. 3 days later, on November 6, Ware County finished their elections. Small county. They certified, and at that time, you're supposed to lock your ballots up, secure your ballots. But as you'll see, the machine data shows us that batch 11 was scanned for the second time on November 11 at 10:36 a.m., which means someone was adding fake ballots to the cast vote record. These were counted 5 days after the election was over and certified with. Now, there was 100 ballots in this batch. 75 went to Joe Biden, 25 went to Trump. So you see the net gain is 50 for Joe Biden.
All right. What do you make of that? They run it on election day, and then within a week they run it a second time because it was so weighted for Joseph Robinette Biden. Your take on this as an election person?
Well, in this particular topic, I have a love-hate relationship with it.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna give you the inside scoop on this. You go back to where we're getting ready to do the Maricopa audit in 2020. My team had already been prepared and being contracted to do the same identical thing in Georgia. Identical. And we were 3 weeks away, max, from getting everything set up. Behind the scenes, we're battling because Georgia is telling us, well, you can do it, but we've got to control the facility. And then they want to give you a 10 by 10 room to do it in, just all the crap. Well, at that time, the system is fighting to not let us have the physical ballots. Okay. And I'd been playing a game for a year telling the system, I don't care about the cast vote records. That's the electronic low res version. I don't care about the cast vote records. You can't tell anything about it. Now, I and my team, we knew what we were doing. I was baiting them into making the cast vote records very easy to get because before 2020, you couldn't really get them, right? And so I'm leading them down a path thinking we don't really want them. They're crap, knowing that they're going to offer that as an alternative. Well, the judge, if you can remember, as we're going through the cases and stuff, I came in as an expert witness and I explained to the judge these things called the cast vote records. They are the IEEE standard of a 1980 fax machine. And they say they're 300 DPI. No, they're 300 DPI if you combine all the sheets together, right? They're the quality of a low image fax. And so what the judge did is actually handed me those records before anybody had them. And I had to give my testament and testimony for the court. Yes, I confirm these are low res. We can't tell what we need for the folds, or did a person really do it? Now put a pin in that for a moment, because we're fighting for the physical ballots. Anything that's electronic, they always have the excuse to say it's a boo-boo. It accidentally happened. If it's the physical paper itself, that is a felony. You mess with it, it's a felony. And so we're fighting for these physical ballots. Well, what happened is somebody in Georgia, as a backup, we had a backup copy of this, gave it to one of the person in Georgia who was supposedly doing election integrity. They shouldn't have it. And they discovered what we had been keeping secret, that they had batch loaded this. That means they basically ran them multiple times. And it's a pattern that shows it's intentional, because if you imagine a ballot reading from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes to 100. Well, when they put it back in, the next time it goes in reverse and reassembles itself. Do you follow what I'm saying?
199. Okay.
Right. So it runs backwards. So we knew that we had them, hands down. We knew we had them. Well, that word got out. That's one of them there, where a fellow in Georgia at the time decided he was going to be a social media superstar, and he let the cat out of the bag. Look what I found and look what we did. And we're trying very hard to keep it quiet. Well, what happened is the system, they sent in so many attorneys suing that I believe it actually scared the judge. And then the judge basically pulled back and said, well, no, you can't get the ballots. And that's where the fight is today. What you see Tulsi Gabbard fighting about now, suing, we want the physical ballots. Now, I don't believe they're there. But here's what this phenomenon is. In the past, people didn't understand what they were looking at. And even if somebody could get the cast vote record, people did not understand there are 6 versions of the cast vote record. 6 different ones. And if you don't ask for the right one, the system will give you the one they certified. So they're not going to give you the one that actually shows what the problem is, right? They're going to give you one that the numbers are right. Well, when everybody learned it comes down to the ballot, and we need that ballot face, we need that image of the ballot, that's where you really learned what happened. And so, yes, they would watch a batch go through, and it basically flags a batch. So this is, in this case, and in all these cases, it's a Biden-heavy batch. It is a real ballot. In most of the scenarios, voted by a real person, and they know the batch, because everything's done by the batch, that the batch favors Biden. So they kind of tag it. It's just like kind of setting it aside or twisting it a little bit sideways so they can do it in, and they just run it back through. That's all it is. They just run it back through, and it will do the same tally, and it just keeps on adding that number in. Well, the difference between 2020 and now is we have far better analytical tools, and we can catch this. Now, here's the catch. Why you need, and this is done everywhere. Don't think it's, that's Ware County. It was done to excess in Fulton County. It's done all over the place. It's just a simple hack. That is not a machine hack, and it's not something the machine does. It's something that a person, that an individual does, right? And if you want to understand the orders of magnitudes this happens in, let's say you have a county with 1,000 precincts in it. Okay. And these precincts are all running independently. It only takes one rotten egg in a precinct to find one batch and roll it over to do that. Well, you got to multiply it by 1,000 times. A good example is people working in a blank ballot. If you can get a blank ballot in the system, you can fill in the voter later because you have the date and time stamp of a ballot coming in. Mm-hmm. And then if they know where that blank one is, they can insert one in later. In places like California, I've seen counties that have 2,000 precincts, but at the end of the day, they have 210,000 blank ballots logged in the system. That's how it magnifies. So this is a proven physical hack using legal elements only known to a few people, and then they just kind of insert them later. So yes, it's standard. It's easily catchable now. But that's where you've got to be very prudent. I told the people what happened when this one fellow discovered it in Georgia. The way I found out that he had done it, he never should have had the drive. But somebody there in Georgia gave it for safekeeping, and he kind of decided to do it. I heard about it on a podcast, and I'm going, oh my God. And so I hear this podcast coming out, interviewing this guy. Look what I found. Look what I found. I picked up the phone. I called all the podcasters, and I said, I want you to mark down in history. Number one, you need to take this podcast down. You need to take it down right now. Because I tell you what, if it really hits the airway, you have cost us a full forensic audit in Georgia. I'm telling you, you just put the nail in it. 3 of the 4 pulled it down. 1 of the 4 said, you're just trying to get a lead on a story. You just want to jump. I said, this is not a story. This is an audit. We got to catch the bad guys. You got to play to win, and we're playing to win. Well, it got out. And that's what scared the judge. And that's this fine line we live in today about being true investigators, wanting to fix this, and people trying to make their names for themselves on social media. Now that we know it, we're kind of in a next gen. Let me give you a next gen. You can discover this by that thing called the cast vote record. So we've been on this great evolutionary thing. It's don't give us the text file, which people thought was the cast vote record. They learned from our work. No, you got to get the pre-image, the adjudicated image, the post image, and then the EMS. And that's the full cast vote records. Well, now that people know that, we've done a lot of things that were ill-informed, like Mike Lindell getting out on the airway and telling everybody, go get your cast vote records and demand it, which he did. Well, you had 3,000 counties called, people that weren't trained, people yelling at the county recorders, you give us this, you're going to be hanged, you're a traitor to your nation. Well, what happened in that shotgun approach of not being professional, not getting everybody to talk? 50% of the counties in the United States wrote laws to make sure nobody ever gets the cast vote records. These are some of the things of how we kill ourselves. And it's all because everybody's playing superhero versus we must play to win because America's at stake. And so, yeah, you see those things. I am not one about you talk about your investigative things while you're in the investigation. You can actually show what happened. When you're done with certain things, here's cause and effect. But when you show them in the system, meaning that's all driven by the ballot, it's 100% driven by the ballot, they're just going to clamp down harder on the ballots. And that's why I say I have a love-hate relationship with this one. I'm all for people being educated, but this is not about social media stardom. This is not about going on speaking tours and doing, bragging about doing every state and 740 presentations. You're educating the enemy at the same time, and they respond to it. At some point, we do have to play to win.
Okay.
I told you I had a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, no, but you summed it up right there. When you spill the beans, you educate the enemy as well, and you can't play to win if somebody's leaking your intel. So, right. What's that phrase? Loose lips sink ships.
You better believe it. It's true. That axiom is dead bang on.
Yeah.
But, so many people popped up and news stories ran with it, or they put you on a speaking circuit, right? Oh, I'm on a speaking circuit. I'm important now. We lost. This isn't about any one of us. Yeah. And there isn't any one hero. There's thousands of unsung heroes in this. It's only about one thing: saving our constitutional republic, period. And if you go in thinking it's going to make you famous, or you go in thinking this is going to be my new business, it's the worst business in the world, let me tell you, and you forget we are at war, and everything and anything can be weaponized, you must approach it playing to win the war and get this fixed. It's not a popularity contest.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what General Flynn sees this as, and why he's warning Trump is like, listen, I have been to war. We are in a war, and you are the commander in chief, and I'm giving you the intel you need to win this war. Let me get your thoughts on this. This came out breaking. Elon Musk just shared a bombshell report that Minnesota processed 281,000 online vote registration forms with zero proof of citizenship. What does that mean? How does somebody vote online and get away from proving their citizenship, especially in an area where they're now saying half of these Somali paperwork to come to America are fraudulent?
Right. Well, let's do a dictionary check at the moment. What Elon was talking about, and we released reports on this, is regarding voter registration. That does not equate to being able to vote online. Okay, those are two different things. So let me tell you how this works. In most of the states, you can go online and you can register to become a voter. It does not require or have any mechanism in it that you have to show proof of citizenship. You just have to put in your name or whatever you want your name to be, because it doesn't check it. You have to put in your address or whatever address you want the ballots mailed to. And then they ask you for some form of ID, but it's so weak that you can put in a utility bill, a cable bill, a student, part-time student ID card, whatever. The whole system's broken. They'll consider that ID to register to vote. So there were well over 200,000 of these transactions online at a time, but nobody checks on them. There is no cross-verification process, period. Now, when you look deeper under this event, you have to understand there are portals involved. It's called an API, right? It's basically an application program, an interface that goes into it. Now in Georgia, I'll explain because we busted this out 5 years ago of how this works, because we found in Georgia in dumpsters where for some reason, Fulton County, Georgia had ordered, we're talking 1 million more voter registration packets than there are people in the entire state of Georgia. I mean, we had the packets, the whole thing, right? 1 million more for Fulton County, 1 million more voter registration packets than there are actual citizens in the entire state of Georgia. Now, what Hillary and their campaign did, because remember, every vote must count. That's a subtle thing. It's not every legal vote must count or every citizen who's legal must vote. It's every vote must count. That's how the system's broken. So Democrat operatives, deep state operatives, rhino operatives, and all of them did this big campaign in Georgia that verify you are registered to vote because we think maybe you're being deleted off the rolls. They did this really big engine website. You would go to the website, you would put in your information. Here I am. Here's my driver's license. On that one, they required the driver's license. You'd put in your real information under the fear that maybe you're not able to vote and they're trying to put you on a do not vote list. Well, when you submit it and hit submit, it goes in, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. Let me say that again. Nothing happens. So what was really going on? They were building a war chest of names, IDs. And oh, by the way, did I mention you had to electronically sign your signature? They were building a war chest to use. And that's the war chest they used in that Warnock runoff. And so all of this is weaponized. Now, some people will tell you, right now, Waltz just did this in Minnesota. Everybody now gets a driver's license, even if you can't drive. They just wrote it into law, executive order. Everybody gets one. See, the scramble is they can't win elections without illegals. And so what they're doing is dumping in the system where it looks like freedom. You've got to have an ID. No, it's just automatic drop to motor voter. All they need is the inventory. They do these things because it is not the machines. They need the inventory of the voter. Now, when they build these big databases up, okay, and they get people voter registration numbers, what happens is you're able to look at the electronic poll books at any time, and you're able to figure out the net differences. who's registered to vote and who's already came in. Who's registered to vote, who's already came in. And then they do net differences each day on probabilities, and they find the people that really aren't going to come in and haven't bothered, and that's how they'll execute a vote for you in the system. There's a piece of paper that tracks it. It's the ballot. But that's why they have to keep you away from the ballot. And so that's how they bulk load and bulk build these systems. And that's why all of it has to do, can they get information? Like nobody talks about every swing state, almost every swing state in 2020 had a massive voter roll data breach hack prior to the 2020 election, but they didn't do anything about it. This was all arming up. That's what they do, arming up. And that's why if you look at the numbers and you even look now, right, and people say it's the machines. Well, the machines haven't been running for well over a year since the last presidential election. But somehow Kamala's gone from 68 million votes to over 75 million votes since then. Were the machines still running? No. They're backfilling the system to make that 81 million Joe Biden middle finger that sticks up so tall over the rest look legit, and they're about to re-weaponize it for the midterms.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that, because I looked it up and it was like she got 75 million votes, and I was like, no, she did not. And then I looked up on the election day and I was like, oh my gosh, they have continued to count for over a year.
That's right.
In order to make it look like she got more votes than she really did.
That's the racket. Barack Obama, first term, 69 million votes. Second term, 68 million votes. Hillary, 65 million. That was her against Trump. Joe Biden, 81 million. Then Kamala, and the last one against Trump, 68 million. From the end of the election to May, they had already run her up to 74 million. And from May to now, they've run her well over 75 million. All they're doing is closing that little gap of the Biden. I call it the Biden FU finger sticking up. They're rolling it up to make it look like those were legit. Now, that's where the big con comes in, because the Democrats sued to refuse to turn over the voter rolls. I had this discussion one-on-one with President Trump. Here it is. Here's how they're going to do it. The Democrats sued to not turn over the voting rolls. On the same time, on the conservative side, went on speaking engagements at Turning Point USA, all these places, is say, don't bother with the voting rolls. It's like sweeping a dirt floor. Rhino Inc. pushed everybody away from the voter rolls for 4 years, and here we are, headed into a midterm. There were not 30 people that stopped the rig of the election for 2024. I've told you this before. They let President Trump win. They're concentrating on the down ticket. That's why the margins in the House and Senate are so close. They're about to flip it. They're going to win. They're going to impeach President Trump again, and this time it's going to stick in the various, very, very worst ways.
Oh my gosh, dude. I hate, like, there's so much corruption.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is absolutely ridiculous. People will look you in the eye that are supposedly in conservative, we've got to save this patriot movement. One of the most egregious ones, who got elevated by rhinos into this election integrity stuff, swore to the attorney general there were no ballot papers that were used that were not authorized. They used the right paper. When we got 2,000 people on the ground that volunteered their time, touched those papers, know there were tons different. We found hundreds of thousands of them, but yet that person got placed in a position of power to say that's not true. Or on the other hand, some of these people now think they're going to run for governors because they were in election integrity, and they'll tell you, well, that stuff wasn't peer reviewed. And no election stuff, no election software or machines ever has been peer reviewed. They just don't do it. It's all a con, and it's a sophisticated con, and you must stop thinking that it's only the left that does it. We got 2020 because we have a uniparty, not because we have a broken election system. We got 2020 and we're in the battle for our lives because they have placed people in the system. They have taken over the system. And you know what? There's not a single lawmaker that's going to fix it for you. Let me tell you why. This comes down to us. whether you decide to share the truth, get out of the freaking rumor mill and say, show me, show me. Don't accept crap. We got it all, but it's a secret whistleblower. We can't really show you. Oh, I'm sorry, they can't come to court. There are FBI protection. It's all a crap racket. It's to keep us suppressed because we are the cure and we are who they are afraid of.
In that same vein, do you think this Nick Shirley, Somalia, Minnesota fraud is kind of what you just described, where they're saying, well, we've been doing these investigations, and now you got lawmakers saying, yeah, you guys have been doing them for 7 years. Meanwhile, this kid comes in with a video camera and exposes all of these daycares that have just been stealing millions and millions, some of them getting $8 million a year with no kids in there.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, the American people, 100 million people see that and they go, wait a minute, what? We've got to wake the people up.
What's the lesson there? Just asking you as a friend, buddy, what's the real lesson there? Because we know they rape the system. We know they rape us. But what was the tipping point? A citizen.
Yeah.
You have the proof of what works. Citizens got the full forensic audit. The system wants to put their people in. Nick, one citizen says, I'm going to ferret this out. I'm going to run it to ground. And people see it coming from real people, not from the system. Well, what happens is you now get the truth and you have something to measure against. And when you measure them, well, we've been investigating it for 7 years. Horse crap. They all play cover for each other. And Nick is a prime example. If we're going to win, it is up to us. And we win by shining the light on it. We win by amplifying it. We win by seeing the facts with our eyes. Good investigation, good in forensics, and how stupid it is to think that, yeah, CIA controls the country and all this other stuff, but hey, we got a CIA whistleblower that's still alive, and they're just blowing away of how it works. It's all crap. It's all a con. It comes down to we the people. And when you can see it with your own eyes, when you see the evidence in front of you, that's what makes the difference. That's why I said, you know what? The story is not about Somali. Insert region of the world in there. It doesn't matter. Insert NGO, insert scams. It doesn't matter. It's Somalis. You know what it is? This is how the system launders money. And it's no different than a drug lord. Hey, we're going to put in 30 million. You're going to keep 20%. The rest has to come back, so we keep running this machine. And that's how the racket works. They are in office with our money, doing nefarious things to us with our money. So I say the story is no longer Somalis. You knew it. Are you surprised that these rat bastards rape us daily? Are you surprised? Don't you remember we used to gasp when it was a $50 billion bill? Now we don't even blink when it's a $2 trillion deal. Are you kidding me? So what's the story? The story is exactly where you started, General Flynn's letter. The American people now know this happens. They can see it. You can't hold it back. What are you going to do? Now, what we don't do is we don't wait for the government to do something. We continually, politely apply pressure, keep it out there. And that's where, when the evidence is in the hands of the public, that's the only thing that makes a difference. It's like the full forensic audit. We have the data. We have it all because it's ours. It's under patent. We have it. When you look at like Epstein stuff where the government has the evidence, nothing happens. The anchor in all of this is we, the people, having the evidence. Why did 100 million people watch it? Because Nick brought the evidence. Here it is. It's in our repository, and you can't pull it back. That is how you moved this corrupt system. It's us. And the more we pound on it, the more we share on it, the more we educate on it, and the more we collectively dig and ask questions, not sending threats. Beware of the people. So you got to get your guns, and we got to get 20,000 people and go break out Tina Peters. They're inviting you for a crime. It is education. It is getting out and loving and educating your fellow man so you can open the truth to their eyes, the blinders fall away, and that's where we all bind together and we finally get this changed.
Wow. Amen. I want to leave it. I want to leave it on that. Folks, if you guys enjoy these incredible interviews, make sure to subscribe to me and also Jovan. Jovan, if they want to catch you online, where can I point them towards?
You can always find me at rumble.com/Jovan. My first name, Hutton, my middle name, Pulitzer, my last name, all together. It's the only one. I broadcast 7 days a week, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Why do I do that? It's easy to remember, 777. We're lucky that we can do this in this time of education. We're lucky that we can all talk together. This is how we move the ball. It is not the lawmakers who are going to fix this. It is not the lawmakers who are going to move off center. It's you. It's you. And until you make that commitment and you jump in feet first to share truth nonstop and to talk it up and to educate people, well, we're going to keep on getting what we've always got. And we're going to think lawmakers do it, and all they're doing is cashing big checks off our backs.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, I'm going to put direct links so that people can find it easily. We'll have you on. Happy New Year, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, sir, for having me.